Are we live? Are we fucking live? It fucking. God damn it. It didn't catch the fucking thumbnail again. Man, I am so sick of. It's like two or three out of every four times I go to set. Oh my god. Calm the fuck down, Nana. This motherfucker knocked my hard drives off my computer the other day. I had to put down extra duct tape because he managed to project himself off of it with such force that it unseated the duct tape that I had using to. And that was my Ted Kennedy impression. He managed to unseat the tape I'm using to mount some external drives to the top of my desktop, and just like, goddamn. Anyway, I totally forgot what I was talking about. Um, oh yeah, Restream has been failing to apply my thumbnail properly about once out of every four times that I go to stream, and it's starting to be annoying as fuck. Okay, now that problem is solved. Welcome to the dojo. Please be advised. There is a cat running around my apartment. I gave him a wet pack snack, and now he's like in hyper hunter mode. There might have been some extra something in there. It's not like he can even see any other cats from my patio, but I think he's aware that they're out there. I mean, whenever I'm doing stuff around the complex, there are tons of cats. Okay, I gotta apply tags, and then we're like good to go. All right, so what are we doing today? What's happened recently? Well, for starters, there's been a fuck ton of upgrades and updates to how I manage the global game state struct, right? So the the reason that I migrated it from a class or from a struct to a class was actually so we could start facilitating unit tests. So check it out. Like, we actually got a pretty solid foundation for programmatically manipulating the game state in individual unit tests. And for starters, as an example, like super basic example, test game state throwaway. In a loop, we're just creating like instances of game state, and game state actually has a proper constructor now, as well as a proper destructor, and it's just a call to reset, which actually does all of the variable initialization. It's a lot of stuff. This is actually a big file. This is 3,000 plus lines of code now. And this wasn't my intention. This is just like what happened in the process, right? And gonna have to work with it and find ways to deal with that. And I'm not sure if I can split up a class like that, or if the game state is managing too much. But the game still works. I'm not worried about that part. The code still compiles, error free. And in the process of that migration, I may have actually solved one of the bugs I was dealing with. I'm not sure because I haven't seen another crash since doing this, but I also haven't tested it with the initial parameters yet because I'm still kind of playing around with the unit testing. But as you can see, there's a lot of the code that was in individual .h files. It's now been pulled over into game state. Pretty much the full logic loop. Everything's sufficient to implement the tick function, right? Like on every iteration, because like for every time step, there are things going on, and like for instance, 60 frames per second draw frame gets called, right? Like so if you have like over in what is libdraw effectively doing all of the drawing, then if you're trying to create this like kind of game state environment where everything's grid based and everything's turn based, then your gameplay is not locked to like how fast you can render the game. So it kind of like gives you some interesting optimization opportunities for caching and stuff like that. That's what like libdraw does. But liblogic, this thing, most of liblogic, everything in tick processes out just as it did before. And I feel like it compiles pretty fast. So let's go ahead and make everything. So we're sitting at about 7,758 lines of code at the moment. And let's run it. Oh yeah, OBS has been actually it's ever since I swapped over to KDE, OBS has been fucking up with remembering Windows. It's kind of weird. I'm not sure what looks best. It's zoomed out or zoomed in or somewhere in the middle. But effectively, I feel like maybe like focusing like around like your light radius. So this tiny like I think I connected like two rooms together. So this is an even smaller version of the original dungeon, and it's only one floor. And this is strictly for testing purposes. Got him. Yeah, I took some damage though. This is one reason that I feel like, because of the animation reset, which is one of the original problems that I faced with this particular means of processing, was where was I going? What's that? There is a particular problem with this means of processing. Like, originally, so it's like I have to switch, and actually, the switch might still work. I'm curious. So I turn off NPCs all at once because the code's still in there. So you actually have to wait for the NPC to complete its turn before you have any input that actually gets registered. This might not even be a compile time switch at a certain point. It might actually become like like an option that you can turn on and off in the game. So it's a lot harder to notice with only one enemy, but perhaps we can add another. Let's make it a little crowded. We could also get the music back on, right? We spawned right next to an enemy, so it's not good. See, with NPCs taking their turns individually, we do have a bit of an issue, right? The more NPCs on the floor or in the dungeon at the moment, thinking about changing that, like, should everybody in the dungeon be able to take their turn? Or should it be limited to the current floor that you're on? Real question. Something I have to think about. What's happening, people? How are y'all doing? Sup, Red? Sup, Lulz? Sup, Chirpstar? I haven't even checked Twitch. So, like, the inspiration for this switch off, right? I've been watching a lot of this gay dude named Tim Kaine. He made this game called Fallout, right? I don't even know if you can hear me. Is the music too loud? I could turn that down a little. Oh, wait. Oh, wow. We almost were unable to pass due to the stacked tables. I got right up next to me just as I'm equipping the shield. And he still hit me, goddamn. Really. I have no potion. I missed. That's not good. Trying to bait one of them into that chair up there. Oh shit, he came. Okay. Better not fucking hit me, because I'll be dead. Shield has a 90% chance to block if the initial attack roll passes. So he has to get past my AC, which is 13, which is okay. It's not the best. I get a huge bonus because of my dexterity, but I have not implemented armor yet. Yeah, I got his ass. Alright, so we might consider waiting to see if the orc will move away from that tile. He came towards us. Okay. I'm not gonna risk engaging him. And I forgot this dude's still in here. Oh shit, he didn't move. Okay, he moved. Because I need 2 turns to pick up both the items on the tile. But you see, the gameplay in this mode, though, is much slower. And you get to see every single action unfold. Whereas with NPCs all at once, everybody's turn render, or every NPC besides yourself, everybody's action renders simultaneously, which allows for much faster gameplay. And so I feel like this is an option that should be offered through a menu. You should be able to select it on and off. That way you can kind of play whichever style you want. I'm actually considering changing how input works, in terms of, instead of like having a key for attack and a key for open and all of this stuff, to kind of prepare for like multi-platform, mobile version, etc. I was thinking of implementing a kind of action menu that you could pop up with like space or something like that. Because with the introduction of props, I have the ability to like introduce actions where like you engage with an object. Like for instance, there could be a scroll on a wall that you want to read or something like that. Every thing should have like a little descriptor or whatever. Oh, so now I picked both of these things up. Use the potion. Put dagger. And let's go to town. Every orc has a potion on him. So long as you kill and loot them. Yeah. There should be almost no delay between like, since all the other entities are dead, like I should be able to like move, like there shouldn't be like any time before I should be able to input again. But it's probably not, I mean, the entity loop is probably not optimized. So there's probably something that I can do in that department at some point. But in building out the unit testing framework, right, one of the big deals that I'm kind of facing is, besides how fucking huge my code has gotten, like for instance, as I'm building out like little test examples here, a lot of these test examples are based off of how like the initial game state actually initializes everything, right? like because we actually create a dungeon. That's the dungeon we were just in. We do that in a unit test right here. So once you've initialized a dungeon, you have to reset it before you can like call it a dungeon again. I designed it that way on purpose because that way it's like fresh every time you die. I'm gonna treat this shit like Dark Souls, man. But I think people would more appreciate the faster gameplay. And what I was getting at about Fallout was I had never played the original Fallout until really recently. I've put like a couple hours onto it, and it's so big of a slog. Like in 2025, for my ADHD, like jacked in brain, it's really kind of a slow game, and I like a lot of what's in it. I think for its time, it might have been really ahead of the curve, but it does suffer from, like, and a lot of games suffer from, like, especially turn-based games, making you wait to see the results of your actions. There is kind of like a speed of light problem, but at a certain point, sometimes things feel kind of artificial. This is why I appreciate when games offer a speed selection for how quickly like something plays out, being able to toggle that to your liking. That's something I have kind of the initial groundwork for, because I think that's a very important feature. So after placing dagger, what's the next test that we would throw in, right? Oh yeah, okay. So I recently reintroduced lambdas to some of the create functions. Not all of them yet. I still have to do like NPC and a few others. But what this will allow for is to create templates. So with fun, it's an alias for a function object of return type void that takes a reference to a component table and a constant entity ID. What does that mean? So we have an object as a function, or function as an object. We call a lambda function. You can do this in JavaScript. You can do this in Python. It was really kind of a big deal when I first learned about this kind of thing. I thought it was really cool. We used it a lot in Objective-C. And eventually introduced it to C++. It's like, fuck yeah. Dig that shit. So instead of manually doing create shield out with like this with the inline, we can instead pass a parameter called shielded it. That's a lot cleaner, right? Similarly, Go ahead and get it set up. Yank those. Pasties. I'm just realizing too, this it's really interesting because you can return a lambda that's just like defined on the fly, then I could technically parameterize this and introduce, like, if I know I'm creating a healing potion in general and I want to be able to assign like a custom healing property or amount, then that could be a parameter that I actually add in. So if we were to try that here, what would that look like? So if heal amount is a vec3, we pass in, are we able to just replace that? No. Why? However, we can capture it by value. And so we're able to just pass that in like that. And that's kind of cool. So if we know that we have a healing potion that we actually want to return instead, but we need to actually specify what the healing amount is now, we do it like that. So I could actually create small, like, well, actually, this would force it. Well, this may not be the best because what we should pass in instead would be the potion type itself, right? Or better yet, if it were potions in general, then instead we would want to pass in potion type. So we're no longer using heal amount. Right. So we pass PTN so we can actually set the potion type. And depending what type of potion, so in this very simple example, since we're only working with small healing potions, if PT equals potion HP small, then set the healing property to be 1d6. And so we could have some other function later that, we like small healing potion will always be like 1d6 or even 1d4. It'd be like tiny healing potion. And then, kind of like pre-define things, because like while the templates exist and you can be very flexible with these item definitions, at the end of the day, when you look up in the item manual how much potion, how much healing does a small potion do, and it says 1d6, that's what you assign the value to. But that doesn't mean that you can't have like enchanted potions that give bonus healing, for instance. You know, you can take a item definition and modify its properties to give it bonuses on top of its existing traits. And that's the kind of level of flexibility. So you can really define potentially any possible, like literally hundreds of millions of combinations of properties to create such a very like we're just getting started. You know, so we're gonna go and init ocean HP small. Create random monster. At the moment, while I've extended this part a little bit, create NPC has not been fully extended yet. Oh wait, with one. Oh yeah. It takes a CT. Right. Okay. So this is create NPC with, and we should have an error. Yeah. So we have to add this fun NPC init function here, right? So down here, we pass that NPC init function. Here, we can actually pass monster init function to create NPC with. So whatever we actually pass in from the top down can get propagated to different parts of the initialization process. So if you decide, because at the very base level, all monsters are effectively NPCs. They're not like their own entity type or anything like that. That's why you can actually select them as characters if you want to play as them. But I have not gotten to the point of segmenting out like really how monsters are unique or what like properties would they have that an NPC would not have, for instance. I think an orc is an interesting case because it blurs the line, and it was really kind of like an upgrade from like D&D 2.5 to 3.0 to like actually have orc listed as a race that you could play as. I don't know if y'all remember those times back when you know what I'm saying? Back in those days. Those days. Don't cancel me. Okay, so if we also have to pass an at with here, then what we'd have to do is CT and CT on ID, and we'll just put like placeholder. So that fixes all of those errors. Well, what else? So back in a init dungeon after logic and during logic init, we create our random monsters. We're hard coding in the monster up here. But we would want to segment out like if we wanted to like regain the ability to spawn the other monsters, then we wouldn't obviously want to hard code that, but we would want to have separate initialization methods for each of the different types of monsters. I'm not going to do all that now, but the next step for testing, so we tested dagger. We probably want to test shield and test potion, as well as test create monster. So how does writing a test work? All right, so void test init shield. First, we create a new instance of the game state. Then we could just call create shield right away. We have to change the parameters so that we're using G to reference everything. What create shield at with would return a entity ID. And immediately we would want to assert that shield ID should be entity ID invalid. Why? Well, because there's no dungeon. We haven't initialized anything yet. Just creating the game state doesn't initialize a dungeon. That's a separate step that you have to do yourself. Because the game state might change wildly in the future. You know, there's plans for multiple dungeons. There's plans for like a town-ish type section. I don't know exactly how you're going to interface with the town, but to effectively serve as a hub between different dungeons. And in some cases, other dungeons might even have sub-dungeons contained within them. So let's test out our simple ass new test. Core dump, sick. Oh, okay, we have something to do. What happened, right? Or dump again. Fuck yeah. Okay. Um, get random luck. Okay, let's pull that out. Let's start with asserting that uh and it's probably random luck that's actually doing it because of course the dungeon floor hasn't been initialized at all at this point. So luck should come back with all -1. So we wouldn't want it to pass this point. Exactly. Actually crashing on the call itself. So in order for this to pass and for us to actually use it, we require that dungeon floor dot size is greater than 0. And because that won't pass, now I should actually avoid the seg fault. Nope. Okay. Interesting. It actually attempted to run past that point. Okay. So it failed at that point now, right? It shouldn't even execute this at all, honestly. Like the only it shouldn't even get to that point. But we're gonna go ahead and pull down init dungeon. So this will pass. This will actually get us a value that's not all -1. And then we can actually create a shield. And it should not be invalid at this point. There you go. And of course, we could just call it ID. Hey, there we are. I forgot I actually have a script for this. Do tests. It failed? I thought I'd just change that. Is that kite shield? I wonder what it actually thinks the name is. Oh, did I not save? Is that why? Okay, okay, we're good. Um, okay. What about some tunes? So now with monsters, right? Like if we create one random monster, we would have to do some sampling on the tile itself, for instance. So we start by getting a random location. Now, after this point, yeah, we can obviously do our tests. Entity type, entity C. It does not have an item type. It has a race. We know it's going to be an orc, but we don't know what its name is going to be. We can only assert that it has one. It has an inventory. And if we get that inventory, so getting the value of that, what is an inventory again? Oh, it's a shared pointer to a vector. We actually know it's supposed to be 2. Because it has a weapon and a potion. What about assertions of the tile itself, right? Yeah, I could just access it like this. Now we can make assertions about the state of the tile. It has t.entities. And that's a shared pointer as well. And because we have access to the entity ID up here, we could actually yank the entity ID off of P, right? P.entities pointing to at, probably the first. And we're going to assert ID and ID2 should be equal. All right. All of the tests survive. So that's just placing one monster, right? Let's say we want to create like 3 or 4 monsters in this tiny dungeon. I'm not going to bother with these assertions, although I do want to hold on to that just in case. So we're just going to create 4 monsters here. Okay, that's all good. So what happens if we create too many monsters, right? So no, well, actually, it's more than a 4x4. Fuck. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like 16, 32. Something like 32 or 33 tiles. So we're gonna go ahead and just like create a failing test here and see what happens. I know that it's gonna fuck up somehow. Side ball, nice. So what's the upper bound? $31. Oh no, this won't work. So the system needs to be fault tolerant in that if I accidentally add too many monsters, I want the game to fucking crash. You need to always make sure that you get back a valid location. But realistically, create random monster at with should reject -1, -1, -1. But we actually do know validation. This is a good opportunity to add that. Oh yeah, we need to actually pass monster init function here as well. That was a lot cleaner. There you go. Okay. Now, if I wanted to make this more fault tolerant, right? So if I pass -1, all -1s in now, so if it ever returns invalid, we just chug along, and it'll only realistically return invalid on the last line. So the final checks still kind of hold. There you go. Back in the game state, back in the knit dungeon. After we create the monsters, realistically, you know, since it's a unit test, we don't really need, unless we're like unit testing add messages specifically, because like you might want to test to verify that messages are in the state, although it's pretty tested at this point. It would be interesting to eventually enable some sort of scroll back feature, you know, to be able to like go back and view like old messages. Now with that in mind, we actually have kind of all the pieces necessary to actually construct a simulated environment, right? Because in the process of simulating like one game tick, there's going to be code that I'm going to have to branch off from the unit test itself, so that if the game happens to be in testing mode, when tick gets called, instead of it, for instance, asking for the player's input, because by default, the player won't have been created. We actually need to write a unit test for the create player as well. Greetings. What does entities mean? Entities refers to like any in-game object, or generally speaking, like things that you can interact with. In my game, it refers to anything that is not a tile. So, in other words, the characters, the items, the props recently. There's a lot of stuff like that. Do I use AI in any of my pipelines? Sometimes. I've done a few streams recently where I used Aider to give analytical feedback and help guide cleanup in reducing the complexity of certain functions. I had great success with that. I've had better success using AI and LLMs to roast my code and help point out things that I need to fix myself, rather than allowing it to do the fixing. Real talk. I think there's a lot of potential with these tools, but I also think that there's a right way to do it where you don't want to break your computer. I hope everyone's having a good night and had a great and lovely Christmas. So over in our main, whenever we create the game state, the first thing we actually do is call logic init, right? All the things that we just did were individual components of the existing logic init. Creating daggers, creating potions, creating shield, placing props, doors, initializing the dungeon itself. All of that stuff is a predicate up to this point. What happens next? So if we called liblogic init here, it would actually do all of this. But instead, what I want to do is almost all of that stuff. I even I mean, I got actually a lot of the initial unit tests here were stubbed out by Aider. I'm manually writing them now because at the end of the day, it began writing tests that just straight up wouldn't pass because it didn't understand the system. But in the right context, it could write some good tests. There's our props. There's our dagger. There's our shield. So we go ahead and create all three of them. Shield, potion, create potion, create shield, create dagger, place props, place doors. Gonna create some monsters. All of this should go. There you go. So that effectively emulates logic init, right? Like that actually does all of this shit. So remember earlier I said that we have to set a switch on game state, right? Because we're getting to the point where we're gonna like start simulating actual gameplay. So as a predicate towards that, handle input gameplay. So as an example here, like for instance, move up. So actually selecting move up processes the action and then sets the animation state. But because in unit testing mode, we're not actually rendering anything, we have to have some way to signal that it is some other turn, right? So like if we get to this point and we happen to be in player input, then we're going to need some sort of input trap that depending upon some sort of heuristic selects an action for the hero to take in that moment in that simulated environment. So as an example, you know, I might have him move just randomly and attack in the same way that that he was previously, or that like the NPCs do. So like if the test so try entity move does not update the input state. Or like the current flag, for instance. So I can handle move up, where like we actually manually set this in everything. So here we would have to do that and then do that. So one of the problems with simulating a full tick as well is that one of the functions in libdraw that handles the setting of the flag to signal, hey, it's time for player input again. That's in a totally different file than this one. And at the end of the logic tick, if we're in testing mode, then we need to skip the animation part entirely and just go straight back to the input. So once all the NPCs have run through their turn, the player will also will try to move randomly again. And then we set the flag animation. But at the end of a logic tick, here, if test,
scream, a savage dance, the twisted dream, fragments fall, my assets torn, in the chaos I am reborn, smash the keys, blood will rain, flesh torn, eternal pain, face to steel, skull collides, in the
if test, what are we doing? Oh yeah. So over in, I haven't been lived there in a long time. We got this nasty function I haven't cleaned up in a while. So if NPCs all at once, or not NPCs all at once, we manage the setting of the game state flag. So realistically, this could be something that ends up being removed entirely and put straight up into game state, since all it takes is a game state as a reference. In fact, we'll prepare for that time by doing it kind of right now. We're gonna call it something different though. We're just gonna call it handle flag. So if test, right? Animation gets set at the end of the player action, even in test mode, even if it's an automated selection. So if flag is equal to animation, which it should be, it gets set to NPC turn. NPC turn consequently sets it to animation once it's finished taking its turns. And then it gets back down to player input. So I shouldn't have to really change anything there. So in a single time tick, player could actually just change a location. So after all this setup, right? Remember in main, we call game loop. Game loop calls tick. And tick, it technically wants a reference to the input state. Well, we can create a mock one. I'm curious what's going to happen. We're simulating one time step in the game. Keep forgetting to run unit. Oh wait, hold on. So I got it. Oh yeah. Some things, because of the compiler setting interface with my fucking thing, I gotta update something. Core dump, sick. Oh man, that's awesome. Okay. What happened there? Do we have to call input state update? Alright, let's try the original test without the new stuff. Okay, that works. That works. Something in here is breaking, so let's tease it out. Let's break tick up into its individual components. Wow, okay, everything's good so far. Huh. Interesting. Oh. Huh. Wait. This is probably confusing the shit out of it. We're gonna disable all this for moments. Why did it crash earlier? We should be able to just call tick. Oh, you know what? The player hasn't been assigned yet. We never created a player. So we're able to like simulate the movement of things. Because yeah, the players, it'll tick and it won't break, but because the player's not assigned yet. location, and name. I'm gonna place the hero in a random location. Everything goes. Shit. Dungeon floor. Oh, but yeah, we never do any further assertions, but at least it's not crashing. 863. $896. Dungeon floor. Dungeon tile. Interesting. Oh, maybe my math was off by 1. What is turn count?
My neighbor is finished. Now I'm having barbecue. The meat is never burnt round here.
Turn count 0. What the shit? Huh? It starts in player input. I don't even think I'm using this right now. Old as fuck. Oh, it's because of the scene. Oh, right. Okay. Now something should be cooking. There we go. Now we got something to work with. Oh, my baby girl is woken up. We'll play the game, y'all.